Today's lesson is Poles Apart, Exploring Earth's Frozen Frontiers. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
Hello, everybody. I am Shane.
And today, Shane and myself are going to be continuing to talk about the poles on the Earth. Now, last time we talked about the North Pole or the Arctic region, and we talked about some special characteristics of that area. It's quite harsh there, but we have different kinds of people and animals that have figured out how to survive there. What are some of the
adapt, right?
To adapt, indeed. And what are some of the iconic animals or things of the Arctic?
Right, we've got those polar bears and those super cute Arctic foxes. They've learned to make a pretty good life there. We've got walruses and seals. Yeah, they've adapted quite well to that very harsh environment. And today we're going to be going to the opposite pole, all the way down south to Antarctica.
Right. Antarctica, of course, is where the South Pole is. If you're down in South America and you keep going south, if you're in Africa and keep going south, you'll eventually get to Antarctica, which is actually a continent. It's one of the continents in the world, and it's not just a big sheet of ice like the North Pole. It's actually a continent, although it is totally covered in ice. Let's talk about Antarctica in today's lesson. Let's listen to the first part.
Antarctica, the southernmost continent, is a remarkable remote region entirely surrounded by ocean. Governed by 29 nations under the Antarctic Treaty, this vast icy desert spans 14.2 million square kilometers and likely remained unseen by human eyes until the 1820s. Today, its remoteness makes it one of the last great frontiers for exploration and discovery.
大家好，第一部分介绍形容词 remarkable， 意思是非凡的、惊人的或是引人注目的。例如 Arthur has shown remarkable improvements in his writing ability this year. Arthur 今年的写作能力展现了惊人的进步。或者 Jolene always has the most remarkable ideas. Jolene 总是有非常了不起的想法。再来看到名词 treaty， 表示条约或是协定。例如 The country signed a peace treaty after years of conflict. 经过多年的冲突后，这些国家签署了一项和平条约。或是 The treaty allows for free trade between the two countries. 该条约允许两国之间的自由贸易。接着看到形容词 vast， 它的意思是广阔的、巨大的，同时也可以是大量的意思。例如 The vast desert stretched out as far as the eye could see. 那片广阔的沙漠一望无际地延伸开来。也可以说The public library has a vast collection of books. 公立图书馆拥有庞大的书籍收藏。
All right, so Antarctica, the southernmost continent, is a remarkable remote region entirely surrounded by ocean. Now, being the southernmost continent, that just means that it is furthest south. So once you get to Antarctica, there is no more going south. You are at the end. So it is the southernmost continent. And it is remarkable, meaning that it is quite interesting and you can definitely comment on a lot of characteristics and interesting facts about this place. That's what it means to be remarkable.
Right, and of course it's the southernmost continent. It's the one that's farthest south. It's remarkable. It's worth talking about. And it's very remote. It's far away from places, and I suppose we could also describe it as being desolate. Well, governed by 29 nations under the Antarctic Treaty, this vast icy desert spans 14.2 million square kilometers and likely remained unseen by human eyes until the 1820s.
Wow.
Okay, so this sentence gives us a lot of information.
Sure
First of
does.
all, it tells us that it's governed by 29 nations, okay, 29 countries. have some kind of control over Antarctica. I think they're trying to share it as best they can, and hopefully they won't start fighting over it. And they govern it together through this treaty, this kind of agreement, this document called the Antarctic Treaty. The countries all got together and discussed it, and then they had this document, and they all signed at the bottom, so it's kind of like some sort of legislation.
Right, a treaty is just basically an agreement, formal agreement between countries. And then it goes on to say this vast icy desert spans 14.2 million square kilometers. So when we say something is vast, we just mean it is very big. It goes on and on and on. And in fact, this icy desert spans, that just means that's how long it is. That's how far across it is. It's 14.2 million square kilometers.
Right, and we're also describing it as an icy desert, which means there's not a lot of life there. And to span just means to cover a certain area.
Right.
This is a vast continent. It's quite large. And also, it was probably down there avoiding everybody's gaze all the way until the 1820s. People lived on the Earth for thousands of years, and they didn't know this continent was there.
That's right. Yeah, that's pretty remarkable in itself that it wasn't really discovered until the 1820s. Well, today, its remoteness makes it one of the last great frontiers for exploration and discovery. So exploration is just exploring, means to look and try to find new things. When you explore an area, what you're doing is you are seeing it and finding things for the first time and trying to discover new and interesting things about it. So there's still lots of exploration going on in Antarctica.
Right, that's the action of exploring a certain area. So we could say space exploration, for example. Lots of countries are involved in space exploration. The US, Russia, China, India, Japan, etc. They're all involved in space exploration. And yes, indeed, this is a great frontier, an area that has not been discovered, and people are still learning more and more about Antarctica all the time. So let's go on now and learn some more about Antarctica in the next part. Let's listen.
In the summer in Antarctica, the sun shines continuously for 6 months, though temperatures rarely top 0 degrees Celsius. During this period, roughly 5,000 researchers live there, carrying out studies across various scientific disciplines. Then, as winter approaches, the population dwindles to around 1,000 and the sun dips below the horizon, not to be seen again for months. The lowest ever recorded temperature was a bone-chilling minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. Each year, those who brave the winter conditions have the unique opportunity to design a new marker for the South Pole.
第二部分看到 continuously 这个单字，它是副词，它的意思是持续不断的或是接连的。例如The machines in the factory operate continuously. 工厂中的机器持续不断的运行。再看一个例子 The alarm rang continuously for over 2 hours. 闹钟连续响超过2个小时了。下一个介绍名词 discipline 指的是大学的学科，也可以是纪律或是训练的意思。举例来说 Sam does well in all school disciplines except for music. Sam 在校所有科目除了音乐之外都表现良好。又或者说 Succeeding in the high-pressure world of professional athletes requires hard work and discipline. 要在高压的职业运动员界成功，需要努力与纪律。再来看到动词 dwindle 表示数量减少或是缩小。例如 Visitor numbers to the museum are dwindling. 那座博物馆的访客人数正在变少。也可以说Supplies began to dwindle as the drought continued. 由于干旱持续，物资开始逐渐变少。最后看到 horizon 这个单字，它是名词，表示地平线，也可以是范围或是视野。我们可以说 I can see a few boats out on the horizon. 我可以看到远方地平线上有几艘船。最后一个例子 I'm hoping to expand my horizons by living abroad for a few years. 我希望借由在国外生活几年来拓展我的视野。
Okay, welcome back. So in the summer in Antarctica, the sun shines continuously for 6 months, though temperatures rarely top 0 degrees Celsius. So the sun shines continuously, just meaning that it does not stop shining. When something happens continuously, it goes on and on. So the sun shining for 6 months at a time, that's a lot of sunshine. But it's not that warm. It rarely goes above 0 degrees Celsius, which is the freezing point.
Right, so it's sunny in Antarctica for 6 months, but that does not mean it's warm, so the ice will not melt. And during this period of time, during the summer in Antarctica, roughly 5,000 researchers live there, carrying out studies across various scientific disciplines. Okay, so here we've got lots of scientists, lots of researchers living in Antarctica during the summer there, and they carry out these studies. If you carry something out, you perform it, you do it. They've got these different kinds of research that they do, and they carry it out, they do it. And, of course, these kinds of studies vary across various disciplines. A discipline is just a different field of study. You could have people down there studying the weather or astronomy or geology or meteorology or whatever. There are probably lots of different people in different scientific disciplines.
Continuing along, then as winter approaches, the population dwindles to around 1,000 and the sun dips below the horizon, not to be seen again for months. So as winter approaches, as winter comes, the population, all of the people there, we say there's about 5,000 researchers that are living there during the summer. That number dwindles or goes down to or decreases in size to around 1,000. And that is when the sun dips below the horizon. And the horizon is just the point where basically the sky meets the land or the sky meets the ocean. That spot, that thing that you see when you're gazing outside and maybe it's a sunset, you will see the sun go down, and where that reaches the ocean, we call that the horizon. It's the farthest place that you can see.
Yeah, the horizon is mostly visible when you're at the ocean. Just look out there, you can see where the sky meets the ocean. That is the horizon. And again, the sun dips or goes below the horizon, and it won't be seen for many, many months. Okay, so it's really dark down there, and 4,000 of those researchers say, I'm out of here. I'm not going to stay down here.
Too cold.
I'm going to go to the North Pole where it's light all the time. And the lowest ever recorded temperature was a bone-chilling minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. That's probably not as cold as it gets on Mars, but it's still pretty darn cold.
Oh, well, probably one of the coldest places on Earth. A bone-chilling, if something is bone-chilling, it is just freezing cold. It makes you feel as though your bones are freezing. You feel chilled all the way down to your bone. And at minus 89.2, that's almost minus 90 degrees Celsius. I couldn't even imagine. Yeah. I can barely imagine 0 degrees Celsius, let alone minus almost 90.
Pretty cool. So you got to make some preparations if you're going to be down there during that time.
Absolutely.
And each year, those who brave the winter conditions, those who are brave enough to live there in those cold conditions, they have the unique opportunity to design a new marker for the South Pole. So I guess that's a kind of tradition. They try to figure out exactly where the South Pole is.
Because it's going to be shifting around.
Right, so they set up a marker there, maybe some kind of pole or something with some paint on it. And if you're down there, you have the opportunity, the chance, or the privilege of designing a new marker. So you could probably go online and find out what the different kinds of South Pole markers looked over the years. Okay, we're at the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's finish things up now with the third and final part.
Life in Antarctica is scarce. The the continent has no native land mammals, but it is home to several species of seals, penguins, and other water birds. Meanwhile, since only about 1% of Antarctica is ice-free, plant life is limited to a few extremophile species of mosses and lichens.
Okay, so life in Antarctica is scarce. Now, when you say something is scarce, you just mean that there is not a lot there. There are few resources, there's very little life. You could also use the word desolate there.
Right, so again, life is scarce there. Like sometimes in Taiwan during the winter, eggs are scarce. Sometimes you have to make preparations for that. Or toilet paper gets scarce sometimes.
Sometimes, when a typhoon comes, groceries get pretty scarce.
That's right. So you got to act fast or those things will be scarce. So there's not a lot of life in Antarctica. The continent has no native land mammals, but it is home to several species of seals, penguins, and other water birds. So they don't have any native animals there, at least native land animals,
right.
like bears or
the polar bears that we have in the North Pole.
Right, or deer or whatever. Yeah, they don't have any of those land mammals. They do have sea animals that kind of a step on the land from time to time. And yes, indeed, we have several species of seals which swim in the water, and they're very cute, and they perform in aquariums. We've also got penguins. Everybody loves penguins.
They're great swimmers, and they're great walkers. I love the way that penguins walk.
I love it, too. Of course, you can see penguins, I think, at the Taipei Zoo.
I
think they've got some down at the aquarium down in Kending as well.
Ooh.
And indeed, penguins live there, seals live there, and we've also got water birds. But again, these are not land mammals. They actually live in the water mostly.
Right. Meanwhile, since only about 1% of Antarctica is ice-free, plant life is limited to a few extremophile species of mosses and lichens. So, meanwhile, just meaning at the same time, there's only about 1% of Antarctica that is ice-free. So there's no ice. So there's very, very little land, which is probably why there are no native land mammals, because it is all ice. And it's very difficult, in fact, for plants to survive, so they're just limited to some of these extremophile species. So an extremophile means something that loves extremes, like extreme heat or extreme cold, extreme conditions in general. And these are limited to some species of mosses and lichens, just some plants that have learned to adapt to these extreme temperatures.
Yeah, moss is kind of like short grass that grows on rocks and trees and things like that. And lichens are very simple plants that don't get very big. And again, they can only exist in extreme environments. And extremophiles, of course, also include animals that live at the bottom of the ocean, for example, near volcanic vents or something.
Sure.
I think they're bloodworms or something down there. And they've got those white crabs that live in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean because they are extremophiles. I think you could also describe those fish that live in deep ocean trenches, like the anglerfish or whatever.
Right.
Those would also be considered extremophiles.
Right. They're just living in any type of an extreme environment, whether it be temperature or whether it just be the environment in general not being very hospitable to life.
So there you have it. We've had a lengthy discussion about the North Pole and the South Pole. Maybe we've gotten you interested. Head to your travel agent right away and arrange a trip either to the North Pole or the South Pole, although I don't think it's that easy to go there. Now let's finish up our lesson now by listening to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分最后一句写到 Each year, those who brave the winter conditions have the unique opportunity to design a new marker for the South Pole. 每年那些勇敢面对寒冬环境的人都有独特的机会为南极设计一个新的标记。句子里面的 brave 在这边是当动词，指勇敢面对。那我们这边要介绍一个句型是 those who 加动词，这是表达凡是怎么样的人，那些怎么样的人。 注意这边的 those 指的是 those people 那些人，那是哪些人呢？我们后面接着就接了 who 引导的关系子句来修饰先行词 those， 那就可以表达出那些怎么样怎么样的人，或是凡是怎么样怎么样的人。像 those who are interested in adopting a pet 就是那些想要领养宠物的人。Those who haven't seen the movie 没看过那部电影的人等等。好，我们要特别注意关系子句里面的动词要用复数形，就像课文里面 Those who brave the winter conditions 它是指那些勇敢面对寒冬环境的人，那里面用到了复数动词 brave， 那之后呢它又搭配这个复数动词 have。 好，补充一下 Those who 加动词其实可以简化成 Those 加上分词 VING 或者是 PP，也就是呢，把关系代名词 who 省略，然后把它后方动词改分词。动词如果是主动就用现在分词，被动就是直接用过去分词。例如 The website provides useful information for those thinking about studying abroad。这个网站提供了实用资讯给那些正在考虑出国念书的人。我们其中的 those thinking about studying abroad 其实就是由 those who are thinking about studying abroad 简化而来的。那么看到课文第3部分，他提到南极洲的生物非常稀少，这片大陆没有原生的陆生哺乳动物，但是是好几种海豹、企鹅和其他水鸟的家园。文中是用 It is home to 来表达它是什么什么的家园。那么 home 当名词呢，就可以指发源地、所在地、栖息地。我们来看看它常见用法有2种。第一个是用 be home to 加名词，这可以表达是什么的所在地、栖息地，或是表达某地拥有什么。我们用来表达这个某人或某事物归属于某地，这时候 home 它是不可数名词哦。例如 Amsterdam is home to many world famous museums。阿姆斯特丹拥有许多世界著名的博物馆。那么第二个用法是用 be the home of 加名词，这可以表达为什么的所在地、发源地、栖息地。home 在这里是当可数名词用。例如 Taiwan is the home of bubble tea。 台湾是珍珠奶茶的发源地。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Remarkable.Meredith's remarkable talent for music was obvious from a young age. Treaty. The two countries signed a peace treaty to end the war. Vast. As we sailed across it, the ocean seemed vast and endless. Exploration. Space exploration has led to many important scientific discoveries. Continuously. Myron has been working continuously on the project for several hours. Discipline.Mathematics is one of the disciplines that Alma is thinking of studying in college. Horizon. When he stood on the beach, Antonio could see a ship approaching on the distant horizon.
Discussion starter starts now!
Okay, it's time for our discussion starter. It says, the question is, which desolate polar region would you prefer to visit, the Arctic or Antarctica, and why?
For me, I'd rather visit the Arctic, given the fact that there are some land mammals that can be seen. You know, I think polar bears, Arctic foxes, and it just doesn't seem to be quite as extreme as going to Antarctica. So I think that I would prefer the Arctic. How about you, Roger?
Well, I'd rather visit Antarctica because on the way there you could pass through South America. I've never been there before. I'd like to go to Chile and Argentina and practice my Spanish. And when I'm done with those countries, I can hop on a boat and head on down to Antarctica and hang out with those penguins. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Shane.
See you next time.